Okay, welcome back. And of course, the cloud of sadness over our country, the unexplainable time in which we live, is just going to be with us for quite a while. And we need a little fix. And what I mean by that is our good friend and pastor, Marc Little. He's the executive director of Cure America Action, which is also a website, cure-action.com. There's a picture of that landing page. Marc also has a podcast, and he'll be talking about Charlie Kirk in depth on his podcast. We'll get the information on that. But let me encourage you to go to cure-action.com, keep track of him, and he's a frontline warrior in so many ways. My friend, how are you?
Well, brother, I am as you are. Still processing it. I'm still putting it in context. As you see, I'm wearing my collar today, which I don't think I've ever really done with you. And it's because we have to walk by faith and not by sight, and really lean forward to hear the voice of the Lord. And that's what I'm doing. Thank you for mentioning the podcast. It's also reachable on my website, cure-action.com.
Okay, when are you going to do that, Marc?
I'm probably going to do it today. I just released one today called The Anointing, and I don't want to step on that, but we just had some announcements today that they have the suspect in custody, and I'm gonna hear from the Lord. So much is going to be revealed, and I'm still on my face just trying to process what the Lord wants me to say to the church, and I have a little of that to share with you today. But I'll do it when he says to do it.
Those of us who lived through President Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King, and then we have it again in Charlie Kirk, we're raw. We're beyond numb. We're in shock. This is a PTSD moment in our country, and yet they couldn't even gracefully have a moment of silence on the House floor yesterday. Mm-hmm. A couple of questions: why did this happen, and why are we letting stuff like this happen?
First, let me share with you that for some of us, it hits very close to home, particularly if we're in leadership in the conservative movement. I met Charlie with Candace Owens the day I laid hands and prayed over President Trump in 2020 in his first term. And Rob McCoy, who is Charlie's pastor, is a very, very personal friend of mine. And so there are a lot of connections for me that have me processing this through the prism of relationship. And so I'm still making my way through the fog. It's like a loved one was shot. That's number one. So that's the backdrop, and just to maybe project what some of my what might be perceived as struggling, maybe even in a different way than others. That's my backdrop and context. Number one. Number two. Why are we allowing this happen? I'm going to take your questions in reverse. Why are we allowing this to happen? I believe it's not necessarily that we're allowing it to happen. I think that God has a purpose in all things, especially where believers like Charlie are being used, because the word tells us that we will suffer tribulations. And this is not just a tribulation for Charlie and his family, but it is a tribulation for the larger body of Christ. Number one. Number two, I think that it is allowing some people to see people roam the streets, cheering and celebrating. I was reading how TMZ's staff now is trying to cover up for their glee. And it's allowing us to see and to highlight in the culture just how dark the culture is. For those of us who may not be fully awake. the culture is able to see that people actually would take glee at the assassination of someone with whom they disagree or with whom they perceive to be racist or misogynist, and all of the really crazy terms that are being used to describe him, which in many instances are just the lies of the enemy. So the darkness is thicker than perhaps we recognize. And to answer your first question, what is this? What is this? And this is what I'll get into on my podcast. You mentioned JFK. You mentioned MLK Jr. I want to throw in Jesus Christ because they were all political assassinations, depending on the prism through which you look at them. Of course, we know that Jesus Christ's crucifixion served a purpose of reuniting us, putting us in right relationship with Christ, justifying us. And there's so many things that the cross accomplished. But there was an element of it, when you look at Caiaphas and the Jewish leadership of the day, it was also a political a crucifixion, if you will, done under the government of Rome. And so martyrdom, we have to look at what that means. Martyrdom is, these were witnesses. Witnesses, I'm just going to say in the Greek, it is the word that it means to be a witness. And by refusing to renounce faith, martyrs demonstrated that death had lost its sting. Matthew 10:28 says, "Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell." Charlie lived his life, whether you liked it or not, very clearly energized by his faith. And I posted a clip recently, yesterday, on my Instagram about, he was asked a question. If you only had 30 seconds left to live, what would you say? And all Charlie talked about was his faith, and that if you only have 30 seconds to live, please know that if you're not in right relationship with Jesus Christ, get right, because you're about to meet whatever eternity you have chosen. I'm paraphrasing. And so in that way, Charlie was a witness. He was a witness, not just to those lost students who so often at that age are lost and they're searching. I know many of them myself, and they say crazy things. You look at them when you're our age, you look at them and you say, how could they be this lost? And then it's a witness to us. It's a witness to us. It's a witness to them, and it's a witness to us. His boldness. He only lived for Christ. And how he converted the thoughts and the minds and the hearts of students on campus to right thinking. See, we separate political from biblical worldview. That's not Bible. What Charlie was really doing, he was ministering the gospel. He was ministering it through the issues of our time. But he always landed on his faith, and that's what was important to him. And so I hope that answers those questions.
It does, because I think Charlie used activism to be an apologist. You know, I came up with this thought, Pastor, and I'm not trying to draw anything out here, but I'm just wondering if Charlie's death becomes, and his assassination becomes to this generation that he was reaching, the MLK Jr. moment. MLK was a nonviolent activist for a cause, and Charlie was a non-angry activist for the cause.
I love it. I love it. I think we can draw parallels, corollaries to the assassinations that you mentioned, and including MLK Jr. But here's the corollary that I want to really draw, is that it is a seed for growth of the church. Last night I was watching, as we all have been, and I've taken to scrolling probably more than I should, but it has really allowed me to see things that I wouldn't see on some of the news channels that I watch, and that was maybe 100 or more students. And they appeared to be varying ethnicities, but mostly white, in a bad part of town. And they were on the steps of what appeared to be a church in a city like a Baltimore. I don't remember the city, but it was like that. And they were singing hymns. They were singing hymns. And there was someone with a camera who was someone who looked like me. And he was saying in the nomenclature of today, he was referring to YNs. I'll let you figure out what the N stands for. But he was saying little YNs. Let me tell you, look at these CNs, referring to Christian N-word. He said, don't mess with them. He said, these are the ones you don't want to mess with. You little YNs, don't mess with these CNs. Something is happening. Something is happening. When you can have a group of young Christian followers of Christ, young followers of Christ, in the middle of the night, in the evening, late at night, doing what would look like a vigil in the heart of a rough town, singing hymns, singing worship music, singing unto the Lord. I'm telling you, a martyrdom brings about growth. It's a seed for growth. We might be on the edge of witnessing the revival here in America that you and I have been talking about for a long time. There's revival happening all around the world, where Jesus is showing himself to Muslims, appearing to Muslims, where he is sparking revival in various places around the world. You and I talked, and I said, I believe he's going to use those of us who we would never expect, those of us who would come out of places like MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, places where we wouldn't expect people to be an igniting force behind revival. And I think that martyrdom in our Christian history has been that very thing. It's a seed for growth in the church. I don't know, I'm not speaking prophetically, but that is in fact the history of what happens when people like MLK Jr., Jesus Christ in particular, and maybe now even our friend Charlie Kirk, their deaths are not in vain. They never are. In fact, it joins us with Christ's suffering. Yeah. And there could be nothing better than that, because the word says we also join in his comfort.
No, I think you are prophetic. What you're saying is also backed by statistics. George Barna will back up exactly what you're saying. Young men in the younger generation that Charlie was talking to are being drawn to church. They're looking for structure. They're looking for authenticity, and only the church can deliver that. Just one other quick question before I take a break. What quality of Charlie you think will be carried forward?
Excuse me. I think that the thing that we'll take with us is the thing that so many of us are missing. The opposite of the person that used that gun, who is a coward. What we'll take from this and from Charlie's life was his boldness. He was unashamed and he was unafraid. He knew the danger. Mm-hmm. He was unashamed and he was bold. And that's what so many of us are missing today.
All right, let me take a break. Go to Pastor Mark's website, cure-action.com. That's where you can plug into his podcast, support him. He's out there front line doing a lot of work. Cure-action.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and always an honor to have with us our good friend Pastor Marc Little. He is the Executive Director of Cure America Action, and that's also his website, cure-action.com. Let me encourage you to go there, be informed, support him, and check out his podcast. He'll be doing a couple of special podcasts here relative to Charlie Kirk. Pastor Marc, I got to be a little gut transparent. It took, and I'm still processing from sadness to heartbreak, but I have to tell you, there was a time for me yesterday, actually right after it happened, the day before, I was just really angry. And I had to keep it to myself. I had to kind of take a walk and cool down. And I realized that that can produce confusion. In some cases, might even produce doubt in God. Then I had to ask myself, what am I angry about? And I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the program today. I hope this comes out right, but I'm just flat ticked at the enemy. This is evil. And I don't want evil to be given to paths under the guise of mental health. This is spiritual evil. This is the stuff talked about that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against this stuff. And I guess I'm trying to qualify my anger that yes, it happened to a person that was just doing good. But the anger part, I guess, is that maybe it's a wake-up call that there's a devil out there and we need to attack him.
Absolutely. So there's two ways of processing this. Number one, we are in our flesh, and when something like this happens, you have to grieve, and one of the stages of grief is anger, and we ultimately come to acceptance, and you actually have to let yourself go through those stages, and that's healthy, it's natural, and it is absolutely appropriate. But then we say in the Word, be angry and don't sin. So we're just like we didn't go out and riot and do like others did when George Floyd was so terribly murdered on screen. They took to the streets and burned up the country. What we did is we took to the corners and started singing. And that's who we are. I love the expression, we are not the same. So that's number one. But number two, here is what the believers have to sort of, when you get to the place of acceptance and then focusing our energy and focusing our ire in the right direction on spiritual warfare, we see it for what it is when we come through this fog. That's when the church then blossoms. That's when we unite under purpose. And that's when we attack what is wrong in the culture. And so those of us who have been standing, going up to Sacramento with Jack Hibbs and coming against certain demonic forces in California, and we maybe have 100 or 200 or 500, maybe now we'll start getting 10,000. Because now the fog has been lifted, and we can see the hand of the enemy, who's doing all sorts of things. This is one of many diabolical things that the enemy is doing. But the way that God works, which is we were talking in last segment about the result of the death of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the church grew, and that goes to Romans 8:28. That all things will work together for the good of those who love God, who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. He brings these things that don't make any sense to us, and he uses them to bring about his purposes in the earth. The prayer says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so Charlie left a legacy that we're all going to be latching on to. We're going to be playing clips of what he has said. We're going to be playing clips about his faith and what he was charging us to do as he answered a lot of those questions. And it's going to be a sort of a new way for us to be energized when we wake up every morning. I was shot and lost my leg, and I have a lot of friends who've gone through a lot of hard times, and they say to me, Mark, I look at how you make it, how you were able to make it with one leg and recover and move on and fight. And now we're going to be doing that with Charlie. We're going to be hanging on to what he left us with, to fight, to be encouraged, to be energized, because the fight now begins afresh. And I think that that is what God said in 8:28. He's just using Charlie as a way to energize us to bring about what he wants us to do as the church in the earth in this contemporary age.
To that point, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm trying to figure out, usually when a voice of this prominence is removed, as tragic as it's been, the message of that or the result of that is picked up. It appears, to your earlier point, that he demonstrated boldness. Do you think this boldness will energize the church to come out from its walls and be bold in the community?
I have very little doubt about it, because what I do is to know what's happening in the culture, and I'm seeing people and I'm hearing people who are fired up in ways that they probably wouldn't have been before, and I think they're fired up because they're saying to themselves, if you think that this is going to have a shriek back and give way to the ways of the enemy, we are here to prove to you that you are mistaken. I think that there's an army that is actually suiting up as we speak. And I have no doubt about that. What it looks like is what I'm concerned about, that we have a righteous indignation and that we don't sin and that we become a heavenly army and not an army that walks in the anger of our flesh because of what they have done to our children, what they have done on college campuses, the fear that they are trying to instill that if we speak publicly, this can happen to us too. We've just come off of the concern of our very own president having survived 1.5, if not 2, assassination attempts. This is prevalent, and there's a message here. And this shooter, although they say now he's 22 years old, that was a professional shot. I don't know how a 22-year-old comes by that. There are plenty of people that age who've come out of the armed forces. I don't know his background yet. But this is, for me, connected to the attempt to scare us as conservatives, as Republicans, and as part of a MAGA movement, that we will not win the day, and that this can happen to many more of us. I think that's the message. You haven't asked that question, but I do believe that there's a message in this. And it wasn't just to get rid of Charlie. It was to say, and this is not necessarily limited to him. How can I say that? Because I believe that same professional force tried to take out our president. Now I'm making that connection because I'm seeing a pattern here. This was not somebody willy-nilly laying down on a roof with no training. I'm also seeing some people in the audience that day who are giving signals that are connected to signals given to snipers that were standing very nearby Charlie. That will, I imagine, begin to come out more and more, unless it was AI. You don't even know what to believe anymore. But to your point, we're not laying down. Mm-hmm. I don't care what it is that happened or how it happened, but we are not laying down. I'm not stopping talking. I'm not going to stop speaking. We're going to keep standing.
Love you, brother. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, go to his website, cure-action.com. You can check out the podcast. We've got quite a few there, but the one coming up I think you're going to want to be a part of. and support them, cure-action.com. Marc, you're an inspiration, my brother. Good to see you.
God bless you.
You're on top.
God bless you.
You're on top. You're
God bless.
prophetic. Stay there. We'll be right back.